Anxiety has days when it doesn't just whisper. It arrives like a storm. The alarm clock rings, but what truly wakes you is the racing heart, the knot in your throat, the mind firing off scenarios that don't even exist yet. On the outside, the room is quiet. On the inside, it feels like the sky is darkening fast. Waves of worry, lightning strikes of repetitive thoughts, thunderous what-ifs, pounding without cease. Even before getting out of bed, you already feel like you are trying to survive a day that hasn't even begun. This storm doesn't come out of nowhere. Sometimes it comes from bills, diagnoses, family problems, job insecurity, or memories of what has already gone wrong. Other times, you can't even explain where it comes from. You just feel your chest tighten, your breath shorten, the sensation that something bad is close. And then the mind enters a cycle, reviewing conversations, repeating worries, projecting disasters. You even know that God is in control, but inside, it feels like no one is in charge of anything. In the midst of this, faith gets confused. One part of you knows God's voice that says, "Do not fear." Another part listens louder to the voice of anxiety saying, "Everything will go wrong." And you feel guilty about this, as if a Christian who truly trusts would never feel this inner chaos. Yet, the Bible shows a God who speaks in the middle of a strong wind. In 1 Kings 19, Elijah heard God's voice in a gentle whisper after the wind, the earthquake, and the fire. In Mark 4, Jesus rises in the middle of the storm and says, "Quiet, be still." God does not wait for the sea of your soul to be calm to speak. He speaks precisely when the waves are highest. This morning prayer is born from this real scenario. When anxiety feels like a storm, God, let your voice lead my day. It is not for those who never feel fear, but for those who are tired of being dragged down by fear first thing in the morning, yet still desire to hear another voice above the noise. If you are watching on TV, there is a small QR code in the corner of the screen. When this prayer ends and you have a quiet moment, you can point your phone at it and find other prayers for days when anxiety presses harder. And if you know you need this kind of care frequently, you can subscribe and walk with us in prayer, morning after morning. For now, you don't need to fix yourself for God. Take a deep breath right where you are and acknowledge, "Lord, the storm is raging inside today, but I want to learn to let your voice guide my day." In the next segment, we will go a little deeper into this internal chaos and begin to see how anxiety has tried to steal the direction of your life, and how God, with a gentle and firm voice, wants to take the helm, even while the waves are still crashing. Anxiety does not stay still inside you. It takes territory. First, it seems like just a tightness in the chest. Then, it begins to influence everything. The way you see the day, people, God, and even yourself. Simple situations become threats. Neutral conversations become analysis. Small delays become a sign that everything is going to go wrong. The storm, which began as a cloud inside the mind, starts to command your route, schedule, and even your body's reactions. You are not just worried. You are being guided by the fear of everything that might happen. Over time, this storm begins to steal your inner voice. You stop asking, "God, what do you want for today?" and start living in reaction to what you feel, what you fear, what you imagine. Prayer diminishes, not because you no longer believe, but because you feel too exhausted to try and focus. Reading the Bible seems difficult. Hearing God seems impossible, because your mind won't stop shouting. And then a cruel thought comes, "If I were truly spiritual, I wouldn't be like this." Anxiety hits, and guilt hits along with it. This combination is destructive because, in addition to suffering the symptoms, you start to feel like a spiritual failure. But the Bible shows another perspective. In Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7, God does not say, "Never feel anxiety." He says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds." In other words, he knows anxiety comes, and instead of condemnation, he offers a way to bring everything into his presence so that another voice, peace, can begin to stand guard within. When anxiety leads, you enter the day already defeated before it begins. When God's voice leads, the day continues with challenges, but the direction changes hands. You no longer walk only reacting to fear. You begin to respond to what God is saying, even trembling inside. In the next segment, we will talk exactly about this. How, in practice, to start trading the voice of the storm for the voice of God first thing in the morning. Not denying what you feel, but learning to let what He says have the final word about your day. In the middle of the storm, anxiety always has a lot to say. It speaks loudly, quickly, and all the time. God's voice, conversely, usually comes gentle, firm, but never hysterical. And that is precisely why, if you don't make space, the internal noise swallows His whisper. The good news is that the Bible shows a pattern. God does not compete by shouting above the chaos. He invites you to turn to what He has already spoken. The voice that calms the storm in the heart is the same one that has calmed real seas. In Mark 4, Jesus rises in the boat during a full storm and says, "Quiet, be still." The wind obeys. On that day, His word was not just a comfort, it was a command over the chaos. Today, that same voice remains alive through the written word and the presence of the Holy Spirit within you. When anxiety says, "Everything will go wrong," God replies, "For I know the plans I have for you." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. When anxiety shouts, "You are alone in this," God affirms, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Letting God's voice lead your day does not mean that anxiety disappears instantly. It means that it loses the right to be the main narrator of your story. It is starting the morning by asking, "Lord, what do you say about what I am feeling?" It is opening a psalm, a gospel, a verse you already know, and treating it not as a decorative phrase, but as direction. Instead of just hearing what your mind projects, you begin to counter, "I am feeling this, but God is saying that." This movement is not denial. It is alignment. Practically, this can look small: repeating a verse softly, writing a promise on paper, playing a guided prayer while making the bed, whispering, "Jesus, speak louder than my fear today." But it is these small choices that train the heart to recognize another voice in the midst of the wind. With time, you begin to perceive. The storm remains real, but it no longer dictates the course alone. There is a word above the waves, and that word does not tremble. In the next segment, we will turn this into real guided prayer. You will be led to take to God, one by one, the phrases that anxiety has been repeating within you, and to answer each one with what His voice declares. From there, the morning prayer will help you give the Lord the place of commander of your day, not just as a theory, but as someone whose voice decides, in practice, how you will navigate the next hours. There comes a moment when it is no longer about understanding anxiety, it is about placing it before a greater voice. If you can, sit right where you are, with the environment as silent as possible. Close your eyes for a few seconds and inhale slowly. As you exhale, you can say softly, "Lord, when anxiety feels like a storm, let your voice lead my day." You don't need to force calm. You just need to be sincere. God is not measuring the perfection of your prayer. He is attentive to your heart. Now, think of a phrase that anxiety has been repeating inside you. Maybe it's, "Everything will go wrong, you won't be able to do it, something bad will happen today, no one is with you in this." Choose one of them and tell God, as if showing a message on the screen of your heart, "Jesus, this is one of the phrases that haunts me the most." Then respond with the word, "But your voice says that you have plans for peace, that you do not abandon me, that the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want." You are switching the command, taking the microphone from anxiety and putting it in God's hands. If you wish, you can take this to your body too. Place your hand on your head and pray, "Lord, guard my mind today. When anxious thoughts come, remind me of what you have already spoken." Then, move your hand to your chest and say, "Guard my heart too. May your peace, and not my fear, be the place where today's decisions are born." Philippians 4 verse 7 says that the peace of God guards your heart and mind. This is exactly what you are asking for. It is also worthwhile to present the day in parts. "Father, I surrender these commitments, these conversations, this place I need to go, this situation that makes me nervous just thinking about it." And then declare, "I do not want to enter these things guided by anxiety, but guided by your voice." If something is not yours for today, close it. If something is yours, give me the courage to walk, even trembling. Anxiety may continue to make noise, but it is no longer the only voice being considered. In the next segment, we will seal this time and the entire day under this truth. You may wake up in the midst of the storm, but you do not have to let it write the script for the next hours. We will consecrate the day saying with quiet firmness, God, may your voice be the one that has the final word about my today, and carry this phrase as an anchor while the waves still try to rise. Before you get up and face everything that awaits you, this is the moment to place a spiritual seal over the day. Stay silent for a few seconds and then declare calmly, Jesus, I consecrate this day to your voice, not to my anxiety. Repeat slowly, guide my steps, my words, my decisions. May it not be fear that commands, but what you say about me and my path. You are not denying that the storm exists. You are choosing who stays at the helm while it happens. Now, present the most sensitive areas. Lord, I surrender the situations that trigger my anxiety the most. This meeting, this news I am waiting for, this person, this place that frightens me, this problem that still has no solution. Then pray, when fear tries to lead my day, remind me of your voice. When the storm within me rises, speak to me again, even if only in a whisper, and pull my heart back to you. Prayer is not a button that erases everything. It is a surrender that changes who commands your interior. If you are watching on TV, that small QR code in the corner of the screen is a discreet invitation. When this prayer ends and you have a quiet moment, you can point your phone at it and find other prayers for days when anxiety is especially strong. It's not about filling your life with videos. It's about having a safe place to return to when your heart is in a storm again. If you know you need this kind of care frequently, you can also subscribe and walk with us in prayer, morning after morning, letting God train your heart to follow His voice every day. To carry this truth with you, a simple phrase can accompany you. Lord, today I choose to follow your voice, not the voice of my anxiety. Throughout the day, when you feel your chest tighten, you can whisper, when anxiety feels like a storm, God, let your voice lead my day. Not as an empty mantra, but as a reminder that there is a voice above the waves, and that voice loves you and knows where to lead you. At the end of the video, the invitation will be direct and gentle. If this prayer spoke to your heart, write in the comments, Lord, let your voice lead my day, as an act of faith in the midst of the storm. If you want specific intercession, leave a word like anxiety, family, work, health, or future, and we will present your life in prayer. And if this time was embracing to you, like the video, subscribe to the channel Still Grace Prayers, and when the final screen appears, choose the next prayer to continue walking, no longer dragged by fear, but led by the voice of God.